Welcome to Wellbeing with Manny in conversation with. What we hear and listen to throughout our day can shape how we feel. If we feed and nourish our soul with wholesome conversations from everyday people, filled with positive stories, we may feel less alone and even inspired. We're all working through our own stuff, and sometimes you need to hear that you are doing amazing, which you are. Wellbeing with Manny in conversation with is listening to others talk about how they have journeyed life so far, how they keep their well-being in check, and how they keep their mindset positive. This is not always possible, but sometimes they share some really good tips on how they improve their well-being just for those days when they're not feeling quite the ticket. Welcome to this Wellbeing with Manny in conversation with community. I really just wanted to build something special that people can feel part of, feel seen, and feel valued. Some of the people we speak to have really inspirational stories, and hopefully it can resonate with you, make you stop, reflect, and also just pick up some top tips along the way. So thank you again for being here, and thanks for sharing your time with us. Here's the show. Hi everyone, just jumping in to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of this series of Wellbeing with Manny in conversation with, and that's the amazing IA Hair and Beauty. Now, I don't know about you, but as someone who has a very busy life with lots going on, an hour hair or beauty appointment can feel like a real treat, an absolute essential, non-negotiable bit of self-care. Sometimes I know that all I need is a fresh French manicure to make me feel a bit brighter. I don't think we should underestimate these little acts of kindness and the impact that they have in our busy lives. So we have a special treat for you, a 15% one-time code across all the IA Hair and Beauty range. So if that's a gel polish or beautiful nail art, and you just need to jump over to Instagram to see the amazing nail art that Isabel does, or a fresh new trim or colour, then IA Hair and Beauty is the best. Go to IA Hair and Beauty on Instagram or Facebook and DM Isabel quoting the podcast for your 15% off treat. Enjoy! Welcome back to Wellbeing with Manny in conversation with. Thank you so much for joining us each and every week to listen to these amazing people, to share their stories, and hopefully some nice take homes for you to enjoy and learn and use in your own life. So today we are recording this in Mental Health Awareness Week. So it's a very fitting week to have our lovely guest with us. But just a very quick reminder to anybody who's listening or watching, if you are feeling anything at all that you think you could do with a bit of help with, please reach out. There are so many places to go. And in the description of this episode, I will link to some organisations that will help. Straight away off the top of my head, if it's within the arts, then Industry Minds, Applause for Thought, Wellbeing in the Arts, and also in general emergencies or crisis. If you feel anything, then the Samaritans would be where I would go to, but I'll pop that in the link. So anyway, hopefully this will help you if you're having one of those days where you just need a little pick-me-up. So we welcome to Wellbeing with Manny in conversation with, and today we are with Cat Ogden. Hi, Cat.
Hello.
Oh, it's so good to see you. And by the way, I'm loving your nails. So anybody who's listening on the podcast, you might just need to jump over to YouTube to just see Cat has a different colour on every finger. And we're here for it today. We're here for it. So Cat is a holistic vocal specialist, singing teacher, vocal coach, all things wonderful, specialising very much in mental health and well-being. So Cat, tell us a little bit about you. We want to get to know you.
Hello. Well, that was a lovely introduction. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm a singing teacher, vocal coach, as you've said. I'm based in Cheshire. And I teach right across the board, but I'd say I specialise in adolescents and young adults. And my fascination with the voice, with being a complete voice geek, has led me on to doing the masters with voice pedagogy, which is where I've specialised in singing for health and looking at mental health and well-being and how singing can be really good for you.
Yes, we know this. So let's start off where we always start these recordings. So, Kat, what does well-being mean to you?
I'd say it's how well I'm looking after myself and how well I'm able to function. I think it's a combination of physical and mental health, as well as social well-being, emotional well-being. I would say that well-being enables me to develop my potential, productivity. It helps my creativity. I also think that how we're made to feel affects our well-being as well. But sometimes when you hear the term well-being, you think positivity, happiness, whereas it's not, you can't be happy 100% of the time. That's not human and it's not realistic. But I think that if you look after your well-being, then you are so much better able to cope with those difficult times as opposed to if you don't.
Yeah.
But yes, and I would say that well-being, if you're thinking about things to do with well-being, your sleep, your diet, hydration, exercise, mindfulness, self-care. I listened to one of your episodes about journaling and I made a note. I was like, oh, that sounds really great. I think I want to get into that.
See, we're changing lives, just one episode at a time.
Absolutely. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with all of that. I love the point you bring up at the end about sleeping, eating, how you nourish your body. We talk on this podcast about nourishing your soul with the conversations, but actually what you eat can, really affect your mood, can't it? Yeah, and sleep, that's a big thing. And we were just talking about sleep before because Kat has a gorgeous three and a bit year old Alfie, and she has another gorgeous little one along the way. 3 months time.
Yes.
How exciting. So sleep is difficult, when you have busy lives, and whether you have children or not, it can sometimes be a real thing. So what I'm so interested to know about, Kat, is your you were saying before how you're really fascinated by mental health, well-being, and how singing is so part of that little cycle, and just what brought you to that. What is the fascination with it? What are you finding? And obviously I'd love to talk to you about I'll ask you that in a minute, actually, because that's another question I was going to ask you about, how you found teaching and whether you've seen a real rise in that level of anxiety. But we'll start with the first bit, kind of what's brought you to the fascination.
I think I've always been interested in mental health, and I have always loved singing. Bit random, but the other day on my Facebook memories, it was my status about doing the masters. And on this state, this is before I knew that I was going to go down a path in mental health and well-being, and sort of looking at that area. I didn't have a clue what I was going to do because the topics in the voice is so vast. But in this status, this very big, very heartfelt, emotional status, was me basically saying I never thought that I would be in the position to do something like a master's. I don't shy away from the fact that I had quite a complicated childhood, and I put in this status how singing has always helped me. It's always been an aid throughout anything that was happening. I could escape to sing. I knew that if I was singing, then I felt happy. So I already knew, without knowing, that singing was good for me. I just didn't know why. So when I jumped into the masters, I was in this webinar, and it was about singing and trauma. And it was saying about how there's something called an ACEs score, which is adverse childhood experiences. And it's a mark out of 10 And depending on how many traumatic experiences you had as a child depends on how many marks you get out of 10. And I was fascinated by this because I thought, well, I had quite a tricky time, actually. I wonder what my mark is. And the higher mark you get, the more statistically likely you are to go down a bad route, a sort of end up in prison, become an abuser, become an addict. So I did a Google search. I did a few of the tests. I was 9 out of 10.
Wow.
And I couldn't believe it. There was one thing I hadn't experienced growing up from the ages from 0 to 18. And I got straight in touch with the course leader. She was actually, it was on Zoom. It was like a Zoom webinar, and I private messaged her and I said, I think I need to look into this. Like, I'm okay. I am anxious. I am an anxious person. And I know that that's very much part of who I am. And another reason why practicing wellbeing is important to me is to manage my anxiety. But I am okay. You know, I have a good lifestyle. I have a secure relationship and family. I feel like I'm well-rounded. Like, why is that? Is it because I've sung? Is it because I sing? So that's where I started from. And then as I studied, as I was doing these studies, what are the benefits of singing for your mental health and well-being? There is reason to believe that when you sing, the chemicals that you release sort of counteract the toxins built up by trauma. So there is reason to believe that helps. So, you know, that's one thing. I had support at the exact right points in my life to help me. That was another thing that was important as well. But then also from doing this study, I realized the impact that it has on my students by just being well informed, by noticing, you know, the way that they leave a lesson feeling so much better than when they walked in, or, you know, the benefits that it has for them as well. But yeah, so it's my interest in it is deep rooted in my childhood and my interest in helping others, but also helping myself to not go down a similar path to what my mum did, which was fairly traumatic.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that with us. That's you know, part of what I want people to do is feel like if they're listening to something that they don't feel alone. And so by you being really honest, that's really kind. That's so powerful, you saying that you know, about it counteracting that trauma. And obviously we talk about well, not obviously, maybe it's some people don't realize it, but it is well known that singing does improve your mental health. I started a wellbeing choir where I work, and it's unbelievable. People do turn up going, God, what a day, and then they leave, you know, just in fits of laughter because you know, I can't quite get the rhythms right, so we just estimate what's going on the page, you know, or whatever, you know what I mean. It just makes you feel better. And obviously there's been loads of studies recently with Vicky McClure doing the dementia choir as well, in terms of what that gives to their cognitive function. And also, yeah, that is incredible.
Choir singing, one-to-one singing is great. Singing for yourself is great. Taken away from a professional context, it's good for you. Singing in a choir, I think some of my happiest memories are with the chamber choir. Really, you know, that social inclusion, the oxytocin, endorphins, serotonin, dopamine, just all of it is happening in that room. Not to mention the beautiful sounds that are made well with people who just love singing.
It's that shared value and that shared feeling, isn't it, when you're in a choir? I completely hear that. So in terms of just moving through into your, we'll possibly come back to some of that study in a minute, but in terms of, you know, that what you're seeing day to day in your studio with your students, how are you seeing anxiety and particularly performance anxiety manifesting in your students? What have you noticed? Have there been any trends?
I think post-COVID, has been very difficult,
Mm.
particularly in the adolescents that I teach, maybe sort of 13 up to 18, 19.
Mm.
I think that exclusion from being social during COVID,
Yeah.
the loneliness, and their own expectations upon themselves, that perfectionism is what I see the most, and them not wanting to fail, or them having lost that confidence in getting up on stage and singing.
Yeah.
I looked into adolescence, and I did the youth. I've done the adult mental health first aid course, but I also did the youth one.
Yeah, brilliant.
Well, to understand what happens in their brains during that time. Their brains aren't fully formed until they're 25. And it's formative. All of those years are formative as well. But yeah, I would say that.
Yeah. And it's interesting actually, because we were chatting a little bit before this as well, and I feel the same as you, but in terms of what you leave the students with when they leave your session. And I think that's something that's been the last few years for me, and I'm not sure I was always as good at it a few years ago. And that's something that I actually feel a bit sad about, that maybe we didn't realize the benefits of not just teaching them singing and making them better singers and making them better performers, but actually how you build them as people and how they leave the space. And I feel really conscious. I mean, I don't know whether I'm kind of almost trying too hard, because I felt like maybe I didn't do it as much, a few years ago, but now I feel like more so than ever, I want them to leave knowing that they're good enough, and that they're valued and they're worthy. Do you feel a bit the same?
I do, 100%. I just don't think that the information was as readily available.
Yeah.
And I think lockdown has taught us all so much about ourselves and our mental well-being as well. And I think that positive language is vital when coaching and working with people. And that's not necessarily that if they have something that they are working on, or something that they need to apply technique to, or maybe change, that doesn't mean that it's flowered up into something that it isn't, but just in a way that leaves them feeling uplifted and positive. I think is really important. Mindset is everything, isn't it? And when I'm talking about performance anxiety, I always start with talking about anxiety and where that actually comes from. I love that this is kind of mixed up from what I've learned on the masters and what I've learned over the years. I had some hypnotherapy sessions which taught me about how anxiety is formed, and I love this. Can I show you?
Oh God, please do. This is what we're all about.
So when we were cavemen, we had our old brain. And in there, it was just our basic survival structure. So it was your fight, flight, freeze, just your basic survival. If a tiger comes into the cave that you're living in, it's your ability to run and survive and fight. And then what happened is, according to the literature, is that we discovered fire, shot to the top of the food chain, and suddenly developed this new brain. And that is our consciousness, morality, ethics. It's called the prefrontal cortex, big word. And then this is like where the amygdala is housed, which is anxiety. That's where anxiety is housed. Housed? Don't think that's very good way of putting that.
It's all right.
So as an example of how this could manifest is that so a performer could be anxious, so in their old brain, about an audition, and they imagine, which is their new brain, being late, failing, making a mistake, forgetting the words. And with imagination in the new brain and without awareness, our brains cannot tell the difference between what's happening right in front of us and what we perceive in our minds. So it gives us the same physical reaction as if there was a real life threat, which creates anxiety, which is the old brain, and they just don't communicate very well with each other, the old brain and the new brain. So then when we create anxiety, we then ruminate, we overthink, which is the new brain, and it creates a cycle. So when we're anxious, when we're feeling anxious and we're in that old brain, we're using something called our sympathetic nervous system, which is that's what controls our body's response to threat, the fight, flight, freeze. And don't get me wrong, some anxiety is good for us because it helps us, it motivates us to solve everyday issues. But when it creates the negative self-talk, the irritability, the worrying, the difficulty in relaxing, when it becomes too much, that's when we need. So that's our sympathetic nervous system. We need our parasympathetic nervous system to kick in, and that is our rest and digest, your endorphins, your serotonin, your oxytocin, your dopamine. That's what we need to counteract that fight, flight, freeze. We need distraction, and we need all the love. And that's where I start with when talking about performance anxiety. It's understanding why it's happening.
That was incredibly explained. Wow, that was so wonderful. And you know what, people watching as well, Cat was kind of doing some hand signals as well, which made it very, very, very clear to see what was going on, new brain, old brain, with like one hand and another hand, and how it fitted together like a ball in a cup almost. Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that's come up recently for me is a lot of people talking about stimulating that is it the parasympathetic nervous system when we want to take over, stimulating that, like the wild water swimming example, you know, that kind of gets the body into kind of straight away the kind of state where it takes over. Or I need to read a bit more about it, but yeah, that's something that I've kind of been reading about to try and understand a bit more of, but that just makes it so clear. So it's so interesting, isn't it, in the moment that you can't see that what's real and and it's a bit like that, simplifying it into the thoughts you have are not fact. Yeah. Thoughts are thoughts. It's not real. Just because you tell yourself you don't look great in those jeans doesn't make it fact, doesn't make it real.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
And that the negative self-talk, I think, is one of the ones that I've seen creep in the most. I think it's always been there, but it's really outed now. You know, even in the tiniest, they're almost like little micro negative self-talk. So, you know, getting up to sing and going, oh God, yeah, I'll go next then. Just even that level of, you know, and all right, not everybody needs to bound out of their chair going, me, I'll go. But you can, yeah, which would be Cat, which we love. Because if you haven't heard Cat sing, then it's an absolute tragedy because she's incredible. That's a joy for everyone. But, you know, actually owning that talent you have and wanting to get up and going, I've got something really beautiful that I want to share with you. It's kind of, we've lost that somewhere along the way.
Yeah, I don't think social media and that idea of a perfectionism helps.
Yes.
Especially with young people.
Yeah. That's something that's come up quite a few times, actually. The kind of social media has been good, you know, and I've certainly found it very good working on this kind of work and finding people. It's been great for me. But I think, you know, we were chatting before about age is an incredible thing. You kind of grow into yourself, you feel more comfortable. So if I see somebody my age who's just like lost 20 stone and is at the gym, I'm like, wow, good for you. Whereas if I was 18, I might be like, God, I wish I had the motivation to do that. God, they look amazing. You know, it would be that kind. That's the difference, I think, is the influence of your brain. Like you say, they just work differently to ours.
Absolutely. And also, you know, with social media, you know, like you say, when you're younger and you sort of, you're like, oh, I wish I could do that. I wish I could do that. There's like a high investment in ego, isn't there? Which is a big factor in something like performance anxiety.
Yes.
It can act as a blocker for performing. Like other things like a bad experience or the size of an audience or the fear of failure or high investment in ego can lead to things like being apprehensive that, oh, okay, yeah, okay, I'll go next, I think. Or, you know, tension, which we know is not good for the voice. That does not serve your voice well when you're feeling tense. Dread and panic, it's that fight, flight, freeze. It doesn't matter what kind of training that performer has had, or how prepared they are for that performance. It can affect the aptitude. It can affect the whole. It can all just fall apart in front of them. Because that feeling takes over and it becomes unmanageable. So yeah, again, it's empowering that performer with the knowledge of how they move past that. I personally, I've experienced performance anxiety. And I thought that it was based on something completely different to what it was actually based on. A couple of years, I know. I had, I think I was always really worried about forgetting the words. Always really worried about that. And then after I did my undergrad and I was doing auditioning, I don't know if I've talked about this openly, but I don't mind sharing. I was auditioning. I was about a year into auditioning, and my dream was to sing on a cruise ship. I wanted to travel the world and I wanted to sing on a cruise ship because I knew I could sing. I know that sounds incredibly big-headed, but singing was my thing.
No, it's true.
I loved it. And, you know, so I went into this audition and again, I smashed it. I did it. I did my classic Don't Rain on My Parade. I absolutely loved it.
Love it.
Got invited to the afternoon, made my way through dance with your advice of smile.
Smile.
Always. When I do anything dance related. Then moved on to the harmonies, which I was like, oh yeah, this is great. They circled us around. They said, you're our people. If there's a ship, you're on it. And I was like, oh my goodness. And then I didn't hear anything. And I knew somebody that was on the panel. So, and this kept happening. I wasn't hearing anything. And they did say they can't put like a 5'5" slim blonde next to a 5'7" curvy ginger. It doesn't look aesthetic on the stage. They explain that. I get that. Anyway, I so I thought, I'm just gonna email this person that I knew on the panel and just see what I'm missing. What do I need? Should I go to dance classes? I'd be happy to try, and I am dyspraxic, but I can try, you know. So I sent this email. I said, is there anything that I need to do? And the response from it was, and it was someone that I really trusted as well. I trusted their judgment. They said, you have the voice, you have the personality, but you don't have the look, and you'll never have the look. And I thought, right, okay. So, and I remember saying to my boyfriend at the time, the only reason I am not halfway around the world on a cruise is because of the way that I look. And I am not prepared to change. I can't change. My mum had such severe mental health battles. She was anorexic, she was bulimic, she had postnatal depression, she had severe depression, she was an alcoholic. She died when I was 16 through alcoholism. And I know one of the reasons I'm so invested, as I say, in mental health and well-being, of course, it is to support other people, to help other people, but it's also so I don't go down that similar path, because I know genetically it could be really likely that I could go down a similar path. So there was no way on earth I was going to start changing anything about my appearance that didn't make me feel good. So I walked away. I just stopped.
Good for you.
And it, you know, I did things like, I did a singing competition, the Open Mic UK, ended up in the final, sung at Birmingham, the NEC. I was going to say Conservatoire then. Although what a place. But you know, I did all these things and I was like, I just know that I love singing, but the life of going out on a cruise ship just isn't going to serve me.
Yeah.
So I did this and I felt like I was then holding myself back. So a couple of years ago, I went, I did some rapid transformational therapy, which was great. And I went and I told this story. I said, yeah, so I went to this audition and, and then blah, 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 told me I didn't have the right look. And she said, well, first off, who does he think he is? Like, who is he to say what look they do and don't go for? It changes all the time. How do you know that you don't fit into that? Basically, what a tool for saying that in the first place. Yep. But when we actually went into it, it wasn't like my reason for walking away wasn't anything to do with what that person said. It was actually, it goes far back into my childhood. In this rapid transformational therapy, I went to 3 points in my childhood where I felt things, and the things that came forward I did not expect at all. You would think that it would be to do with my mum drinking, something to do. Between the ages of 7 and 13, I moved 11 times. I went to 8 different schools. I spent 2.5 years fostered. You would expect that they would be the kind of things that were coming up, but it wasn't. It was when I was 7, when my parents broke up, and the effect that had of rejection. It was when I was woken up in the middle of the night when I was 10 and told that I couldn't stay where I was anymore. I had to move on. They couldn't have me. So they dropped me off in the middle of the night at my mum's. And, my mum at the time was not very well. She was living in quite a, not a dangerous environment. She was living with her cousin who had schizophrenia, who was her boyfriend. And it was really complicated and awful. I was only there for about a week or 2. And that's when I then went in to be fostered. And then later on, it was about rejection. It was about rejection and not feeling good enough. That was where it came from. And since that happened a couple of years ago, I've stopped pushing things away. I started letting things in and doing what I'm passionate about, and looking after, really, really getting to know, like I keep saying, mental health and well-being, but to be the best kind of mother that I can be, the best partner, doing what I'm passionate about doing. And that has all come since I've done the work on myself and realized what it was that happened and how to change going forward.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, Cat, that is incredible to listen to. And it's honestly, thank you again for sharing all of that, because it's just, how that happened to you, it's just unreal, because, as a talent, you are outstanding, but actually it feels like what you have become is more than what that would have given you in a lot of ways, because, when you think about if you'd have gone on that job, that could have been a different life for you. Whereas now, like you say, you've gone deeper within yourself to do the work to become the incredible person you are now. For the longest time that I've known you, you're one of the most caring, supportive humans, like not just, doing the work about yourself, but you do the work with other people. You're so caring and compassionate towards other people that, you make other people around you feel like they want to be better too. So without, even though that isn't a nice experience for you to have gone through, for someone to say that to you, and then for that to bring up all those feelings of rejection, where it's led you to today, part of me goes, would you have changed anything?
No.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Oh, I need to put my charger in. Just come up. It's gonna, my charger's a little bit dodgy though, so I have to hold it in place.
Oh, it's okay.
No, I wouldn't change anything. And also I think becoming a mother, I don't know if you can resonate with this, Manny. Hopefully this is not going to make loads of noises.
Don't worry.
I don't know if you can manifest.
I can manifest anything. What do you want?
I don't know if you can resonate with this, but becoming a mother just made me, I feel so much more grounded in myself. And I assumed when I was pregnant with Alfie that, right, that's it. Like, any idea of having my dream career of being a singing teacher with my own studio is like out the window, because I'm a mum now. But as soon as Alfie came, as soon as he arrived, and I was overwhelmed with how much I wanted to show him that you can do what you're passionate about, follow your heart, and it's given me strength. It sounds so cheesy, but he's given me so much strength to just do what I love doing.
Yeah, no, it's not cheesy. It's beautiful to hear. And also, yes, I do resonate. And I think everybody watching and listening, no matter who you are, if you care for someone else, whether that's, your own children, or whether you have nieces, nephews, or just friends you adore, when something changes in your life, you just feel a shift to make life better for everyone else around you. So yeah, for myself, definitely when I became a mum, it was very, very different. But, even just I think about other people I know that maybe don't have children, there's still shifts within their life that make them want to be better people. And, and like you say, a lot of you wanting to be, a great mum and a great partner will be because obviously you want your children to have, the best family setup, because obviously that sadly wasn't your story, but where it's led you to makes for such a beautiful world for them, which is great.
That is the thing. Now, I never want to be that kind of mum, and if you ever hear me saying this, stop me in my tracks, but I never want to be the mum that's like, I'm giving you the life I never had.
Yeah.
Rose, I don't want to become Rose.
I did it for you, mama.
Yeah.
Or whatever the line is. That's a terrible myth quote, but whatever.
I might have to watch that after this,
Oh, I've just seen it at the Lowther Pavilion, starring Emma Norman. Was one of the best things I've ever seen in my whole life. So we're just going to mention that on the podcast, and then I'll tell her that we've mentioned it. It was incredible. The whole thing was incredible. I can't even mention everyone that was in it because I'll forget someone, but they were all incredible. Thanks very much.
She is incredible, though, isn't she?
She is. Yeah, she is. Hello, Emma Norman. We love you.
But yeah, I never want to be that mum. I
know what you're saying.
But I do want to give them consistency. And I mentioned to you right at the beginning when we were chatting before that when I was pregnant with Alfie, I was the same age my mum was when she was pregnant with her first child, my brother. And now I am pregnant again at the same point my mum was pregnant with me, and I'm having a little girl. And this really got to Robbie, because he knew how much it meant to me and I'm doing the same for Alfie. I'm giving Alfie the consistency and the love, and I'm just going to be here for him. Whatever he's passionate about, I hope we can just absolutely roll with it and just give him the brightest childhood that he could have. But having a little girl is like having the me, and giving me as the little girl the life that I just wasn't able to have. The mum that will be there. So, and Robbie, when we found out, oh my goodness, it was so dramatic, because everything was lovely. When we were there on the scan, and she went over that bit, and I was like, I can't see a thing. She said, no, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a girl, and that was me gone. I just was in tears. And Rob was like, what, you think or and he's not a crier. The only time I've seen him cry was when Alfie was born, and he just burst into tears, and then again and again and again, he just knew how much it meant, and it just felt so lovely. Well.
But that's all, obviously the life that you have now is all because of you. Like a lot of people often say, things happen in life that are not your fault, but it's your responsibility. It's everybody's responsibility to respond to kind of carve out the life that you've got now, which is incredible.
You have a choice.
Yeah,
I think you have choices.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, absolutely. So what I'd love to do, to just kind of round things up, is maybe just ask you for like Cat's top tips. So obviously we've talked a lot about, maybe one of the best things from your angle would be, just looking after yourself. What do you do that keeps your mindset on the right track? And then maybe for any of our performers listening and watching, if they are feeling that level of anxiety when they're performing, or that little voice on the shoulder that tells them they're not good enough, what would be your go-tos for turning that around?
Lovely. So for me, how I keep on top of my, that was the first one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I would say self-care is fundamental. It's not selfish to have self-care. It's actually it's fundamental in being the best version of yourself, I think. Looking after yourself, and that doesn't have to be like a full-on spa day like every day. For that's not really what self-care is. It's pockets of time in every day for you. So for me, it's walking my dog, listening to a podcast, or voice noting my friends, being surrounded by trees. It's having a bath, sitting down. On the mental health first aid course, did you do it through Applause for Thought?
Yeah.
Did you have Kate?
Yes.
Yeah. So her golden minute, when you don't have
Yes.
time. So she talks about this golden hour. Have a golden hour for yourself. Have a bubble bath. Watch Netflix. Do something for you. But if you don't have time for that, do a golden minute and just sit with your favorite drink.
Yeah.
If it's a hot drink, if it's a cold drink, and just really enjoy it for you and see what it does to your day.
Yeah. Love that.
And I sing. I love singing, obviously.
Yeah.
And listening to other people sing as well, and seeing other people. Do you know light bulb moments? It's my favorite.
Yeah.
I love them.
Yeah.
And yeah, as well as, I don't know if this really counts, but routine. Having a routine is really important. Really important for my little boy Alfie. And in turn, really, I mean, Robbie, my other half, isn't worth knowing if he's not done his routine.
Yeah. No, it's true.
Exercising, going to bed at the same time, not looking at our phone after a certain time, it's, you know, it really helps.
Yeah.
But for performers, if they are feeling that anxiety, the first thing that I would say is find a coach. Or if the anxiety is feeling overwhelming and it's feeling like too much, go to your GP. That's one thing. But looking at your self-care, and perhaps looking at positive self-talk. You know, if you like audiobooks, or if you like books, I love the audiobook of The High Five Habit.
Love that. It's one of my favorite books. That's by Mel Robbins, everyone. Please read it. It's wonderful.
Do you know, reading it is great. Listening to it
Listening to it. Oh yeah. Yeah. I'd love that.
On Audible, that is wonderful. Giving yourself a high five every morning does wonders. And also, have you read Mindset as well? Positive Mindset, Carol Dweck.
Writing that down.
A really good one. And that's about a positive mindset.
Yeah.
Positive self-talk, affirmation, mindset. And that's where I would say to start.
Brilliant.
And if anyone wants to get in touch, they're very welcome to.
Oh yes, I'll write that down. I'll put your details on the description now that I know how to do it. Oh, Cat, this has been an absolute joy. You're just one of life's absolute radiators, ray of sunshine. And you're stunning and beautiful. And I know that you know doesn't necessarily mean anything, you know, because what you are as a person is greater than anything, but just so you know, you are extremely beautiful. You have to jump on YouTube and see her because she just looks beautiful. My husband nicknamed me the whale when I was pregnant, so you're doing good looking like this. It was affectionate, you know, it was affectionate. But yeah, it's been so gorgeous to talk to you, and thank you so much. And you know, you'll be helping so many people by just sharing some of your tips, sharing your story. So we can't thank you enough for joining us. Thank you very much, Kat.
Thank you. This has been lovely.
Can't find the stop button now. It's all right, we'll edit this out. Where's the stop button gone?
I can't remember it.
Thank you so much for joining us on Wellbeing with Manny in Conversation With, and thank you for being part of our community. It really is all for you. It's all purpose driven, and I really hope that you got something from the episode today. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to share it with anyone who you feel would benefit from hearing these open and real conversations. Please make sure that you are following and you are subscribed to make sure you never miss an episode, either on your app of choice or on YouTube. And if you can, please rate and review the channel. That would be so helpful because it helps other people find us. And finally, just remember that it is all about talking. It is all about sharing. So think, reach out. Who will you have a conversation with? Have a fabulous week. See you next week.